So what's going on, guys? I'm BlackOpsAmazing. Welcome back to another video, and today I wanted to discuss the question, were we lied to about Vanguard zombies? Because it's clear to see that this game, the zombies portion at least, is nothing like people expected. Bear in mind that this is a full-fledged Call of Duty. This is a full-priced product that people paid for. It contains 3 modes, multiplayer, campaign, and zombies, just like most Call of Duty games do. Obviously, us on the internet, people on YouTube or Twitter, we know of these situations that have gone on surrounding this year's Call of Duty regarding Activision, Sledgehammer, Treyarch, and because of that, sometimes we make excuses for them. We can potentially see the reasons why zombies in this year's game isn't up to standards, but what about the people that don't listen to leaks? People that don't watch YouTube videos or go on Twitter? Is it right that there are people out there that don't know what goes on behind the scenes, that have still had to pay full price for Vanguard, believing just like previous titles, BO4, 3, 2, they would be getting 3 full-fledged game modes, including zombies? And the question I want to ask in today's video, is that what was advertised? Were we lied to? Now, to be honest with you, I can't really remember the developers advertising this year's zombies until it was too late. And what I mean by that is, well, until we were a week or 2 away from the game releasing, when most people would have already pre-ordered the game. I can't really remember before that the developers really talking about Vanguard zombies in detail, but they did tell us that a zombies mode would be in this game back when they first announced it, which would have been months and months before. I just want to go back and take a look at exactly what they said before it came out. So Treyarch described it as a new experience with every match. In another twist on the zombies formula, the gameplay space will now change throughout the match as Cortefex's Dark Ether barrier shrinks and expands. This means no 2 games should feel the same as you take on shifting variations of the core objectives at launch: Blitz, Transmit, and Harvest. One minute you may find yourself fighting through your life in a single corridor of Shinonuma, and the next you could have access to both floors of the main hut. As the rounds continue, keep an eye on the barrier markers to designate the playable area for each new objective and make sure you don't get yourself cornered. And that's just the start. So even in that small little portion there, they described Vanguard zombies as a new experience with every match. They say in another twist on the zombies formula, the gameplay space will now change throughout the match as Cortefex's Dark Ether barrier shrinks and expands. This means that no 2 games should feel the same. I don't know about anyone else, but for me, every 2 games of Vanguard zombies feels the same because we just have 3, well actually 4 objectives in the game right now. Season 1 has just launched. It still feels extremely repetitive and tiring every game. Once you've played it once, more than likely, unless you're really bad, you would have completed all of these objectives a few times at least. So when you get into your second game, you're doing the exact same thing you did in the first. So the fact that they described it as being a new experience with every match, no 2 matches should feel the same, that after playing it definitely isn't true. And I know there's people out there that say, well, Eli, zombies has always been like that. Every game of zombies is the same. But the major difference for me between a standard round-based mode and an objective-based mode is having to complete the same objective over and over again becomes very tiring very quickly. Whereas just completing rounds, it's more relaxing. I don't really know how to describe it, but it doesn't feel like you're forced to complete the same tasks each time. Instead, you're just killing zombies and going further and further up in the rounds. Even though you're essentially still doing the same thing every game, having to do the same objectives each time, it just feels a lot more repetitive. And for me, it also gets tiring extremely quickly. So the fact they described it as a new experience every match, bearing in mind that I think they said all of this just a week or 2 after the game launched, I think that was a bit misleading, although that probably wasn't what they meant. But in this next bit, they described it by saying, the 4-person co-op mode continues and expands on the Dark Ether story first experienced in Black Ops Cold War. Set in World War II in the ruins of Stalingrad, this new incarnation of zombies takes players to the darkest corners of the occult, where mortals bond with Dark Ether entities to gain immeasurable power. But at what cost? So again, for me, they're describing Vanguard zombies as a new incarnation of zombies. Whilst it does expand on the Dark Ether story first experienced in Black Ops Cold War, saying that makes it feel like you're taking all of the best features from Black Ops Cold War, so the perk system, the different upgrades you can do by collecting crystals to your field upgrades, perks, weapons. When you're describing Vanguard zombies as something that expands on Black Ops Cold War, only to then not take that game's best features and instead rework it and make a dumbed down, more plain version, one that isn't as good. And also, would I describe it as a new incarnation of zombies? No, I don't really see what's new about it. The actual mode itself, Duran Fang, is a mixture between Outbreak, Onslaught, and round-based. What of those 3 game modes is new because we've seen them all previously? I mean, the only new feature I can think of in this game is the Altar of Covenants, and half of them are taken from older games. They also said by returning to the World War II setting, Zombies returns to its roots in the era where Call of Duty Zombies first got its start. In this new chapter, Treyarch has utilised Sledgehammer Games' powerful Vanguard tech to immerse players in a brutal, new environment that will appeal to long-time fans and new players alike. Get right into the action and step into a portal, transporting you via Doki the Magic to the crux of the fight. Whether that means battling the undead on the rain-splattered rooftop of Hotel Royale, or trudging through the swamp of the fan-favourite Shinonuma. Between objectives, explore the ever-expanding forward operating base in Stalingrad to access classic upgrades such as perks, weapon upgrades, and the Pack-a-Punch. In Vanguard Zombies, it's not long before you're wading knee-deep in the undead. So there's a couple of problems I have with this. One, when they're describing Stalingrad as an ever-expanding forward operating base, that just isn't true because it expands, if I'm not wrong in saying, I think it's 5 times. It may be a little bit more, but that's definitely not ever expanding. And those areas that you are able to open are extremely small. Literally the only point of them is just to access the perks, and a couple of them are also playable areas when you teleport to objectives. When you're describing it like that, it makes it sound like those expanded areas are useful, but they're really not. To be honest, if you're in Stalingrad and killing zombies, you're only ever going to use the main central area to play in. Those other areas that you can open aren't useful for playing in, they're just there as perk locations. And telling us that Treyarch has utilised Sledgehammer Games' powerful Vanguard tech to immerse players in a brutal new environment that will appeal to lifelong fans and new players alike. Whilst yes, I think the tech's good, I do like the Vanguard engine, saying that you're going to hype people up, and 2, mentioning that the brutal new environment appeals to lifelong fans and new players. Yes, you can say that for the World War II setting. A lot of people wanted to go back there, some people didn't, but the mode itself definitely doesn't appeal to both. You could even argue it doesn't appeal to either. So that was how Treyarch officially described Vanguard Zombies, and it's interesting how they only said all of that a week or 2 before the game released. Normally, Zombies modes in any COD are described, I would say, a month or 2 before the game comes out, but because this blog post was released a few weeks before, it makes me feel like they didn't really want to tell us what it was. And I know this is true because a lot of people, before Vanguard Zombies released, were confused. People were asking the question, well, what exactly is Duran Fang? I don't understand it. And then of course, besides from the gameplay, the other big part of Call of Duty Zombies has always been the main Easter egg. Now we know Vanguard Zombies doesn't have one, but once again, it's very weird to me how it was only a week or 2 before the game released that Treyarch came out and said the game at launch won't have a main Easter egg. You would think something as big as that would have been told to us months back before a lot of people would have pre-ordered this. And also, you've got to bear in mind, as I mentioned at the start of the video, there are lots of people that don't go on Twitter, don't read these blog posts, don't watch YouTube, don't pay attention to leaks, that wouldn't have known about this. So people would have brought Vanguard Zombies expecting a main quest, and rightly so. So just to tell us this a couple of weeks before is a little bit suspicious. You could make the excuse and say, well, they were trying to get it out on time, but they didn't realise that until it was too late. But to that I would say, well, we know the main Easter egg isn't coming during Season 1. That lasts for 2 months. There is no way I'm going to believe that Treyarch didn't know they were going to get the Easter egg out on day 1 when it's still not going to be releasing for at least 2 months. That just doesn't make sense. And what they said about this was, the main quest will be tied to the arrival of an unexpected ally after Season 1, which will further expand the narrative of the Dark Ether and reveal more details about the characters and entities that players have encountered thus far. Now, thankfully, we all knew about this before the game came out because of leaks, but what about the people that didn't? Or perhaps still don't? Is it right that they described it as an expansion on Cold War? It was something that new and old players were going to love. It was a new experience with every match, something they'd never done before. It was described as being just as big as any other Treyarch Zombies game we've had. In no way in anything I've just read out did they undersell it. Is it right that they told us it wouldn't have a main Easter egg at the beginning just a week or 2 before the game came out? Is it right that you pay full price for a game expecting 3 full-fledged modes, and one of them at least is extremely bare bones, it's not even fit to launch? I don't think it is. And whilst we know of the problems behind the scenes, Treyarch only coming in about 1/3 of the way through this game and doing the Zombies mode, we knew that before the game came out, but what about the people that don't? The people that just go out there, purchase games, expecting just like previous titles, a full-fledged Zombies mode on day 1. I think a lot of people were lied to and were oversold something. So yeah, there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, drop a like rating, make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Until then, goodbye.